As we begin this course on administrative issues in special education, we start off with the most basic, and that is that we have to understand the terminology that should be used. We also have to understand the perceptions. We have to understand our own perceptions of those with disabilities, and we have to make sure that we understand the perceptions of our teachers. Because as administrators, we can make up all the rules and regulations we want. We can follow mandates from central office. But the reality is the teachers in the classrooms, they are the ones who will carry out the day-to-day instructions. If they do not understand the language and they don't understand that their perceptions might be incorrect, it's difficult to really have a successful program where students are actually able to succeed. Now, in our Catholic schools, we are just beginning over the last 10 to 15 years to begin to include students who have disabilities. And in many cases, administrators were told that, well, you're now going to have a student, or you're expected to accept a student who has a particular disability. The problem is many of our administrators don't understand what that disability means. They don't understand themselves how to help those students. That lack of knowledge creates major problems within the school. I have seen schools, unfortunately, where they say, well, we have a program for students with disabilities. And when I talk to one particular teacher and I ask, tell me what you do differently with those students, and the response was kind of stunning. He just said, well, I just kind of dumb it down. I don't really give them a whole lot. And my question is, why? What is that decision based upon? And is that something that you decided that should be done, or is that something that the school decided, that the parents decided, that the level of comprehension was not important on a variety of issues? Then the question is, as the student goes from one grade to the next, that lack of understanding, how will that impact the student's ability to be successful? So it starts with the perceptions. Now, I know many of you, when you took the pretest, were somewhat concerned. You come into this class with some knowledge, and then when you took that pretest, you felt a little bit deflated because it was like, wait a minute, I thought I knew all these things, and my grade doesn't reflect that. I did that for a reason. Number one, so that you have an understanding of the things that we will cover throughout the course of the semester. What I also wanted to do was show you what sometimes it's like for students to be frustrated because they don't understand. That perception module that you went through. Remember that as you start to design programs for your particular school. When you talk about, and we will talk about it at great length throughout this semester, the concept of inclusion. What does that really mean? Does that mean simply putting these kids over in a corner and saying, well, we'll have a special ed teacher deal with them and that's all we need to do? Or we'll bring these kids in, put them in a classroom, and we'll just take care of them over there? Or are you really looking at developing an inclusive program? And that's one of the real challenges. Now, when you start looking at inclusion, there are several things that are critical. The first is you have to have a comprehensive plan. Just because you, as the principal, decide this is a great idea, I've taken this course, of course we should be an inclusive school. It takes a plan, because it's not just you. It's any other administrators, your staff, your teachers, the parents, the maintenance staff, the other students. So you have to develop a plan, and during the course of the semester, we're going to talk a lot about the critical need for planning. The other is support. You have to find ways to support teachers, to support students, to support parents. And you, as the principal, you need to find support for yourself so that you are constantly learning and engaging others in successful practices. Just simply by taking one course or reading one book or maybe even two, does that make you the expert? No. It must be a constantly evolving process where you're learning from others. You're sharing ideas with those within your school and outside of your school. The other thing that is critical is the resources. Now, in many cases, administrators say, well, we really can't have students with disabilities in our classrooms because we don't have the resources. And my initial question to those people is simple. What resources do you need? Do you know what you need? And how did you come up with that list? Too often we jump to the conclusion we can't do something. It's too expensive. If we had done that years ago, number one, our schools wouldn't exist. And number two, none of our innovative programs would have ever gotten off the ground because, well, it's too difficult. We're going to have to spend some extra money. There are ways to find the necessary resources through state, federal funding, perhaps, as well as looking at corporations, looking at foundations. There are so many options out there. But it takes work and it takes a plan. No one's going to simply give you the resources that you need unless you have a well-defined plan. And that's critical. Now, the issues that often come up when schools are not successful going to an inclusion program is poorly prepared teachers, poorly prepared administrators, overpopulation. You have to look at the size of your classrooms. Are you able to give attention to all the students and their various needs? Too often we just say, it's like the old days, well, I'm going to give somebody 35 children in a classroom, or maybe 40. The teacher will find out a way to make it work. If that's your approach, really, my suggestion is you need to find another occupation. Why? Because you're not doing a service to anyone, to your teachers or the students. Now, in some cases, it might work. But what we find out with so many teachers is that they get so burned out by being overloaded that they suddenly start saying, why am I even doing this? And they leave the profession. We lose a tremendous number of incredibly talented people, not just because of the financial aspect of being a teacher, but because of the drain, the mental and the physical drain. And what are you as an administrator doing to help those teachers, to give them the support that they need? One of the biggest things is a lack of planning, and I will say it over and over again. You start with a plan, and you need to make sure that you're constantly evaluating the effectiveness. Just because you have a plan doesn't mean it will be successful. Does it mean that it needs to be tweaked? Most likely, yes. I haven't seen many really successful programs that haven't started here and been moved to this level up here by tweaking what needs to be done. The things that you need to do over the course of planning is ensuring that people have a sense of belonging. There have to be relationships within your school between students and teachers, administrators, teachers and parents. There have to be genuine friendships, a sense of belonging, a sense of understanding that we're on this mission together. There must be a holistic approach. We need to look at the total picture, not just look at things in isolation. We have to ensure that we have flexible learning opportunities. That requires work. That requires planning. That requires continuous education for our teachers and our administrators. Throughout the course of this semester, we're going to talk about IDEA, what the law says, and how that is implemented in the public school system as well as in private schools. What is your responsibility as an administrator in a private school? And how is that different? What funds are available to parents? What funds are not available? What services are not available? What services are available? How can we interact with our public school colleagues to help our students and also to help educate our faculties? It can be done, and it starts with taking a small step. That small step is understanding, number one, the terminology, and also the perceptions that are held by you as the administrator as well as by your teachers. And how do you mold those perceptions into the reality of helping students with disabilities and those without specific disabilities? That's the role of the principal. That's the beginning of inclusion. As always, if you have any questions or thoughts, don't hesitate to email me or give me a call. I appreciate it and have a great day.